Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light. We begin with the crisis in the Middle East. Last night, President Donald Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. This comes just hours after Iran launched a strike against a U.S. base in Qatar in retaliation for U.S. strikes on 3 nuclear facilities over the weekend. But this morning, Israel accused Iran of violating the terms of the truce, vowing to launch fresh strikes on Tehran.
And they certainly delivered on that promise, and President Trump had a very excitable response this morning, not pleased with either side. Well, this is another reminder that trusting God in situations like this and in daily life is our only option. Well, switching gears now, it's an underreported story making headlines, the passage of the UK's assisted dying bill. Our Morning Light panel will discuss what this means for you and I here in America.
But first, here's a preview of what's coming up a little bit later in the show. Learn about an organization that trains service dogs for veterans and first responders, free of charge. This is the mission of Cover Six Canines. You will hear from the president and how his service dog helped change his life and also strengthen his faith.
The president and his dog have been very popular around the studio this morning. Well, for years, abortion advocates have used the phrase, "my body, my choice," to argue for bodily autonomy, insisting it's within a mother's power to end or continue a pregnancy. Now, many pro-choice advocates have another goal, granting people permission, the right to choose their time and method of death. On Friday, British lawmakers in the House of Commons voted to pass a bill allowing terminally ill patients in England and Wales to choose to end their lives. The bill passed by a narrow 23 votes. It will now undergo months of scrutiny by the House of Lords. If this bill does pass, it will take another 4 years to be implemented, but this is a significant development coming out of the UK.
Certainly. Well, here in the United States, support for assisted suicide has grown. When the question was first asked in 1947, 37% of those polled said it should be law. Today, support for euthanasia has nearly doubled to 73%. Gallup showed people's views differ really based on their religion. Christians, along with Jews and Muslims, teach euthanasia is a violation of the sanctity of life. So where are the ethical lines determining if life should be protected or not?
The question you're asking is the right one, because I don't know that we have drawn any ethical lines anymore, or even asking the ethical questions. There's a significant lesson to be learned, I think, from the passage of the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill in the UK. Branding. The Death with Dignity campaign hired powerhouse communications firm John Doe, whose clients include Guinness and Worldwide Cancer Research and a string of alcohol brands. The result of their campaign? Well, an emotional appeal with A-list celebrities and dramatic testimonials from family members of terminally ill patients. Instead of confronting the moral questions, the campaign asked the audience to imagine your dying wish. So, if there is, as Scripture contends, deep purpose in human suffering, in death itself, who should decide when we die? We'll take these hard questions to the Morning Light panel this morning, and 2 people who I know are very equipped, because you think biblically, and you think not just with emotions, but it's heart and head, and that's what we're trying to bring to this issue this morning. Let's put it on the table. The UK has been fighting off the assisted dying bill in many forms for years. There has always been a church position which says that suffering and death, meaning and value are attached, that to artificially end life is not, in fact, compassion, which compassion is coming alongside somebody and helping them in pain and suffering. This bill has moved the needle significantly, and there is a chance it will pass. Let me ask you, Alex, what has changed from the 1940s, when very few of us would have accepted this as mainstream, to today?
What's changed since the 1940s, right? Well, only everything.
Yeah.
We've seen the complete deracination, uprooting of that religious, moral conscience from society, from the West. You had the Greatest Generation came back after the war and was so horrified by what had happened then. They were disenchanted, and we've been increasingly disenchanted ever since. So the reality is that, yeah, you see it with this marketing firm and the messaging that they put behind something like assisted suicide. It's not ethical argumentation. It's not moral arguments or spiritual. It's emotive reasoning. It's appealing to a person on the basis of how they feel or how they want to feel or how they want their loved ones to feel, rather than asking the big transcendent questions. Who is God? Who am I as a creature? What do I owe to him? What do I owe to others?
Let me, before Michelle, you answer, I want to show a little clip from Ricky Gervais, who's a famous comedian, the Office in the UK, the original one. He makes an argument which I think sounds like a lot of the arguments for assisted dying that we've been hearing, both here and in the UK.
And I also, on a serious note, I agree with assisted suicide. You know, I think if you know that you're not getting better and every day is painful and agony with no hope, it should be your human right to say, I've had enough. Again, it's beautiful. We know it's beautiful with a cat and a dog. We know that's a lovely thing to do. There's a disgusting thing out there that that I tweeted once that says to commit suicide is denying grace of God. It's unthinkable that people would rather have someone suffer than deny that God is a gift.
Michelle, does he have a point about the cats and the dogs? I mean, the fact I saw a euthanasia for cats and dogs truck in my neighborhood the other day, a home service. We have developed over the years this idea around euthanasia and pets. It's almost the same language we're hearing about human beings. If, as Ricky believes, there's no God, what is the separating line between the cats and the dogs and the human beings? Is it just that we can talk?
I personally don't think so. I love cats and dogs. I personally hate when it comes time that they are leaving us. I would much prefer they do it on their own than have assisted euthanasia.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge difference. We're human beings. We're made in the likeness of God, and we have a purpose. So when we're created in our womb, God's created us in our mother's womb. From that day forward, he knows the plans he has for us. Does horrible things happen to people? Do it? Yeah, it does. And I don't believe he's a loving father who doles out a bunch of punishment on people. I think we live in a fallen world and things happen. I don't think he enjoys people suffering myself. I think he understands people's suffering and he's there to help people through it. I don't think we can compare animals to humans. And I know scientifically people will say, well, we evolved from apes or whatever. I had been an atheist before. So I've been on the other side of the fence where I was pro-choice and all kinds of things. However, I will say that as I became a Christian, as I became a believer and saw that God was a loving father, I started to realize things that I had believed that seemed so close to the truth were actually based in lies. And there's a lot of deception that happens, and we buy into it because we don't like to see people suffer. We don't like to see those things happen.
So, Alex, what is the lie then, if she is correct on this point, about suffering? What are the lies we tell ourselves about suffering when you see somebody suffering, the compassionate heart says, I just want to end it? You know, the old Westerns, when the horse was injured, and you know inevitably what's going to happen. That seems to be the culture that we've developed. We want to end suffering. What are we not getting here?
Yeah. We have this avoidance of the idea of suffering and death altogether. We relegate that to this portion of our lives that's outside of what we see and interact with daily. We're afraid to deal with that. The biblical perspective on that is that there is no real such thing as senseless suffering, at least for the believer in Christ, because the believer in Christ is in union with Christ. Christ suffered and rose for the sake of his Father's glory and to save his people. And so whenever we suffer, even in ways that feel senseless and seem senseless, if nothing else at all, it's also conforming us more and more to the image of Christ. Well, one thing real quick, I have a family member, my grandfather, he was one of these larger-than-life fellows. He fought cancer years back, and then he beat it, and then about 17 years after that, I was a teenager, he succumbed to lung cancer again. We found out after the fact that he knew he was terminal before he told the rest of the family. And we sort of saw this sort of giving up where he could have fought it. And I saw the effect that had on our family to see him just sort of not really want to say how serious it was. And it discourages other people when they see you give up. Compare this to someone that I spoke to recently who's struggling with cancer now, dealing with the fact that his family, there's conversations about missions. There's him and his wife are powerhouse evangelists, and he's not wasting his cancer. He's choosing to redeem that suffering and use it for the Lord. And the reality is again, there's no such thing as a senseless set of circumstances for the believer. You can take that suffering and redeem it for the glory of God because he's given you something to live for.
I see you nodding over there. Is that a sentiment that you experience and see as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, look, we're not in other people's shoes right now. And there could be people watching today who you're just like feeling hopeless and you're just...
people who've gotten a diagnosis. I mean,
absolutely.
To be real...
And every day is painful.
This
every
program
day.
reaches a lot of places.
Yes.
We know this, where people, the doctor has said, like the campaign is arguing, if we know you're going to die, why not do it now and avoid the pain?
Right. I would, well, I have two parents who are going through a lot of suffering right now, again, with cancer. And they've asked for hospice to come in for my dad. And you can look at them and say, well, we know that they never wanted this. Like they don't want to have to be fed. They can't get out of bed. They don't want this.
That's where this idea of dignity comes in this campaign.
Right. But in the moments when we sit with my dad right now and he is coherent at times and he talks, it is interesting to hear the things that he's experiencing right now.
Right.
And I would just say, I feel like even in those moments, if people are feeling like, I just want my life to end, you know, and as a Christian, I've struggled too, because I at first was praying for healing for years for my mom who had lung cancer. Then as I started to see that she wanted to go, my prayer was like, Lord, help her to have peace with you. Help her to, if there's unfinished business or if there's something that needs to be taken care of so that she can encounter your peacefulness and encounter you for eternity, then I pray that those things would happen. Wow. So I think it's a shift, even for those that are in agony and pain, I think it's a shift to say, why am I still here, Lord? What is it that I'm doing here? And what can I still do?
30 seconds. I look, there are a lot of people who are in the pro-choice movement who I find are some of the most compassionate, caring people because they want to help people. But the result is abortion on one end and euthanasia on the other. To that person, to that activist who would like to explore something different, where do you start?
Well, I'd say first, there's a difference between somebody who's being kept alive and somebody who can live who chooses not to. So there's a distinction there. But secondly, Ricky Gervais made a statement in that clip similar to that person that was to the effect of, well, it's a human right to avoid suffering. Well, who says what rights humans have? Rights come from someone who created moral law, who created humanity. If you feel like there's a human right to life or to comfort or to pursue one's own interests in some way, that comes from somewhere. It comes from the image of God, and He's the one that we're accountable, not just ourselves.
The decider. Thank you, and thank you, Michelle, for sharing your story. And I know many in our audience will be praying for you and your family. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Well, be still and know you are never alone. How Cover 6 Canines is using 4 paws to reach one heart. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. Many veterans and first responders deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. We know family and friends play a critical role in helping loved ones get back on track, but four-legged friends can also provide support. Joining me is Steve Tilson, president of Cover 6 Canines, and his best friend, Finn. Thank you both for being with us. Thank you, Finn, for being with us this morning, too.
Good morning.
Tell us about Cover 6 Canines.
So Cover 6 Canine is a nonprofit 501c3. What we do is we provide service dogs, trained service dogs, I should say, for first responders and veterans.
So how did you get involved with this ministry, this Christian ministry?
Yes. So I was a Baltimore City police officer for 20 years. I retired unfortunately, they tell you how to deal with problems, but not being a civilian again. So I found out that I could benefit from the use of a service dog. Found Cover Six Canines and became a handler. So that's where me and Finn came in. And then I became a trainer, and then eventually I got voted in as president.
Okay, great. So how do you weave the gospel into this ministry?
So it actually began by two of our founders were attending Freedom Biker Church. And they were coming up with a plan and talking about how they could use, trained service dogs. And Reverend Jimmy from the church came up and said, God told me you can use this, and handed them the starting capital, and that's how Cover Six came to be.
We were talking earlier, and you say that you have a routine for every meeting when you get together.
Yeah, we hold, every class we hold a group prayer where we, pray to God, and we kind of ask for his strength to be given to the handler team, to the canine, that they can help, train and deal with whatever it is they're going through that day.
Sure, and I'm sure there's a lot that they're going through.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Well, as I said, we deal with first responders, and we deal with veterans. Those people really don't see the great side of people every day. So Finn here, he's a little alerting on my nervousness. But yeah, they can help with that aspect, if our anxieties or anything like that can get, help you calm down and relax.
And how are you seeing that this ministry is making a difference?
Yeah, it's touches everybody. Everybody can benefit from a service dog, and the people that we come in and we have trained, they get through their day-to-day. Life is a little bit easier knowing that you have your canine there, and that's one of God's creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we do need to take a break, but I know you're going to talk to us more about how you train a dog,
Yes.
so that's going to be great.
Fantastic.
So coming up next on Morning Light, as you heard, Steve was a former police officer, how a service dog can help overcome some of the challenges he faced and how it really has strengthened his faith. We are back in 1 minute. In our last segment, you heard about the mission of Cover Six Canines. Joining me once again is the president, Steve Tilson, to share his faith journey along with his service dog, Finn. So talk to us about your faith journey.
So, like I mentioned previous, being a Baltimore police officer, I really never got to see the great side of people, So it began a waiver, and then coming to Cover Six, running into people like Doc, like Jimmy, several of the trainers that we have there. We have a couple other ministers that are in, our program, and it just renewed my faith in people and God and how, you can touch every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you talk to us about training a dog?
Sure. We do more of a positive reinforcement, positive correction. We get our dogs to help with medical issues. We can train a dog to detect in your saliva whether whether your sugars are up or down.
Oh my goodness, they can actually detect that?
Yes, their sense of smell is that strong.
Wow.
We can have them alert on anxiety. Just petting your canine can help lower your blood pressure by 10 points.
Oh my goodness.
Like Finn here, he helps me get up and down out of chairs. I have a bad back. He helps me up stairs, helps me up hills, stuff like that.
So how do you go about doing this? I mean, I know not every dog is a service dog, but what are some tips to start training your dog?
So you want to get that companionship. You want to get that trust. You want to get that bond built with you and your dog. So you want them to look at you for guidance and leadership. We like to say leadership is love. You know, I mean, that's what they're looking for as Finn relaxes at your feet.
No, actually on my feet.
On your feet.
On my feet.
Yeah, yeah. So they, you know, they're like, they find comfort in you as well. You know, so that helps with getting them to trust and helps with the training.
And so then, you know, at what point can you say, yeah, okay, my dog is ready to really help me, and how can I guide my dog in this direction?
So there's just, first you want to contact Cover Six Canines, and we can help you with that. But it's just finding out what your needs are. How can your dog help you in your everyday? Makes things simpler. Like I said, with me, Finn can help me get up in and out of a chair when my back's bothering me.
And how does he do that?
So basically, what it is, he can come and he'll stand in front of me. I place my hands on his shoulders, his front shoulders. And if you apply a little pressure, you can feel your dog's legs kind of lock in. And you don't apply all your body weight, but you can apply a significant amount of weight where you can use him as a mechanism to help stand up.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's really incredible. And I know, I mean, my parents are older, and it's something where, you know, it would be nice to have a companion like this to be there to help them when they're having difficulty getting up, or if they're having problems, if someone falls too. What does the dog's trained to do something?
Yeah, like I said, with my back issues, sometimes getting up off the ground is a difficult task, especially when there's nothing around to grab onto. And then I can just have him, we call it brace, have him come in front of me, and I can tell him to brace and use him to get up.
And this ministry is making a difference.
Oh yeah, it's not only is it, you know, providing help with people with their everyday lives, but I know for me, it has renewed my faith in people and God, and, you know, letting you know that, you know, there is good things out there.
And how long does this take? This doesn't happen overnight,
no,
right?
This is a process. We've had handler teams come and graduate, you know, 3-4 months in. We've had some that have been around for 2-3 years. You know, it all depends on, you know, how fast you and your canine learn.
Well, and it's so reassuring. God created these four-legged creatures that can bring us joy, bring us comfort.
Yeah. I know every time Finn, my wife gets jealous sometimes because Finn knows all my secrets. But it's reassuring to know that I can let that out. You know, I don't have to keep that in.
Yeah.
So.
Your best friend.
Yeah, he
we
sure
won't tell
is.
your wife.
No. She'll probably watch them and figure it out.
Thanks so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us. And Finn, thanks for being with us this morning, too. We appreciate you being here in our studios. And for more information about Cover 6 Canines or to become a handler, go to cover6canines.org. Stay with us. We are back right after the break. Welcome back. We want to introduce you to the newest member of the Morning Life family. Our audio engineer, Luke Broersma, is a grandpa. Congratulations. His son, Nick, and wife, Maddie, welcomed a baby girl at 9:15 Monday morning. Kinsley Rose weighed in at 8 pounds, 5 ounces, 20 inches long. Mom and baby are doing well. Once again, congratulations. So cute.
Debra, it's really remarkable. I mean, that he's a grandpa right now, because they look so young and vibrant and redefining grandparenthood, I think. So congratulations. It's amazing. Well, one of the darkest days of World War II, you'll remember it from the movie Dunkirk. Britain's King George VI called for a national day of prayer for the rescue of those 335,000 stranded soldiers on those beaches. The king said, "In this fateful hour, we turn, as our fathers before us have turned, in all times of trial, to God the Most High. He was a king who knew the limits of human power, crippled by that sometimes paralyzing stutter. A king who never wanted the crown but was compelled to service by the decisions of others, his brother. A king who knew only a miracle could save them from total annihilation. In response, Britons by the hundreds of thousands filled Westminster Abbey and churches throughout the British Empire, praying for deliverance on that fateful Sunday in May of 1940. History records Winston Churchill calling the rescue that followed a miracle of divine deliverance. For America and the world, trusting God in this moment of trial and testing, begging for divine intervention is the only safe place to be. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Kocman. Thanks for watching. Check on your neighbors, and we'll look for you again back here soon.